What's so fun about business, it's like surfing. Like, you miss a wave, you see it and you see it pass you by and you're like, damn it, that was a good, it's still going to feed the exposure or the experience for catching the next one.
That's exactly right.
Warren Buffett said, great businesses are like buses. There's another good one every hour. No, there's only one wave, or Airbnb opportunity, or this theme is growing in tech and I've got to build in that theme. And the advice that I would offer to anybody that can get caught up in that feeling is it's more like waves. You miss a great wave, there's another one coming.
Another one coming.
My favorite definition of wisdom is to see the end in the beginning.
Oh, I love that.
And the decisions you're making right now, can you see beyond 10 minutes, an hour, a week, a year down the road?
When you start, one of the things that makes you investable and everyone love you and want to follow you is because you kind of know all the answers. But it turns out the opposite is true, which is when you become a much bigger company, bigger organization, the only way you're successful is now the inverse.
Yeah.
What do you wish someone would have told you? A lesson that you learned later you wish you'd heard earlier?
It's not out there. Those words.
So James, obviously you sold Tilt, which went to Airbnb, and a little known story about me is I knew the Airbnb guys early on. I knew Brian, and I knew Joe, and I knew Nate.
How did you originally get connected?
I was connected to Nate from my friend Jack because I was trying to move to the Bay Area and I couldn't get a job. It was like middle of the global financial crisis. And he said, there's this company Airbnb, they're doing pretty well. You should chat with them. And I said, yeah, for sure. And so we're getting to know each other. I ended up flying out for my consulting job in New York to help Brian do a bunch of stuff for the Series A pitch deck. And eventually they don't give me an offer because I end up moving to another startup too fast. Brian comes back after we sell that startup 7 months later and goes, dude, you got to come and effectively be my chief operating officer. Come help me to run Airbnb as employee number 42. And I got cold feet.
Did you immediately know this isn't the right fit, or were you
no? I
tantalized
thought it was the right fit. I was there. I was so deep. I was in their office interviewing potential executives as if I were working there.
Whoa.
I would do weekend sessions with the founders saying, here's all the best cultures of the different companies out there. My 90-day plan. Before I start, I'm going to go visit them, talk to these people, figure these things out, implement it. And then this one thing happened where he had shared it wasn't Figma, but whatever the version of Figma was back then, with an org chart. And he started changing some things on it. And he didn't tell me about it. And I saw my role changing. And I got really nervous because I just had an issue with my prior founder, which kind of was like a lack of trust thing. And so because of that specific thing, I told him no. And Brian literally said, Healey, this is the biggest mistake you're ever going to make in your entire life. And I've been working every day to prove him wrong.
Yeah.
Turns out.
I won't put that much weight on it, but has it gotten close to you thinking back, reflecting on that, and being like, shit, he was right for, 10 years or so there.
Oh, yeah. So when Airbnb went public, which I hope was a great day for you, I was in the kitchen with my very salt of the earth Italian wife. And she goes, hey, so did you do the numbers? And I was like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. Our life is great. We sold a bunch of companies. We're so good. She goes, well, what would it have been? And I was like, Rachel, you don't need to know this. And she goes, tell me. And so I tell her the number.
Tell me the number.
She started crying.
No way. Okay, so you can't tease the listeners, and it's honestly it's a mythical number anyhow. It's not, but it's not in the bank account. It's not going to lead to anybody pulling you up on gunpoint. But what was? Do you remember the general range of that number?
It was over 100 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, it is fun and rare to make $100 million mistake.
Turns out, yeah.
But it is that just is fodder for the PhD in business that allows you to not make a major mistake down the road. It is all part of it. It feeds into what's so fun about business. It's like surfing. You miss a wave, you see it and you see it pass you by and you're like, damn it, that was a good, it's still going to feed the exposure or the experience for catching the next one.
That's exactly right. So, okay. So this is, James, obviously, you have such a beautiful philosophy in life I want to talk about a ton. But one of the things, like you are that surfer, you see the wave go by, you are the founder and you miss the momentum or your company flops, whatever those things happen. And you like famously have had some rocket ship experiences that kind of like ended.
Oh, dude, wiped out, caught great waves. Big wave riding is what it feels like
You've
in
ridden
my
some
world.
big waves and now you're on another wave. And so there's things that happen along the way where, and I want to talk about this. Like I think I mentioned as we were talking beforehand, I occasionally feel very lonely as a CEO. And you said, actually, I don't know if I felt that. And I want to hear about that. But I also want to talk about the more abstract point here, which is when you're doing these things, you're the CEO, you're the founder, you're the investor, you're the executive, you're the parent, whatever it is, and you're in the grind. Sometimes when you miss a wave, you look in the mirror and you go, what am I doing? Like, what is the point of all this? And so if you're up for it, I'd love to kind of just jump in. And I have a couple of studies I pulled up because, I love talking about this stuff.
I know. I like that. That is a great thread within a podcast that you cite the studies and then bring up the topics because it's a powerful combo of business convo with a little Huberman actual science and data behind it to underscore the importance of the topic. So yeah, jump on in.
Thanks, man. Okay, cool. So on loneliness. So there was this HBR, Harvard Business Review study that surveyed hundreds of executives, and they found that 50% of CEOs tend to feel lonely. And 61, so like the majority say it actually makes them feel less effective as a leader. And I've felt this, and I'm really, I don't want to say desperate, eager to hear your experience in this, because there's been moments where I felt like, James, I couldn't tell anyone the truth. I couldn't tell my employees because it would freak them out and they'd all run for the hills. I couldn't tell my investors because they would lose confidence in me. And and frankly, like I could keep trying to tell my wife, but she's sick of it at this point. Like she's like doesn't want to, she's like, I get it, honey, your work's hard, but there's other stuff going on. And you were kind of saying earlier that there's these kind of interesting phases to being a CEO. So anyway, let's talk about it. Like you've been through a ton. You've had basically all the experiences you could have as a founder.
Yeah, I was telling this to a founder yesterday that I invested in his company and was saying, short of an IPO, I've seen everything there is to see, all the ups, all the downs, from a Series A or Y Combinator, phone call of getting into a Series C to finding out 2 days in that it was the wrong senior C-level hire and being like, what did we just do? To layoffs, to fire sale, to of a company after you spend 6 years building it, to Magic Mind Now's I think we just crossed 50 million in revenue and
congrats.
And profitability. Which was a milestone that I had not. 17 years of building startups. I had not achieved that milestone until year 17 of profitable company.
That's awesome. My favorite line's, we could be there in 90 days if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure you could.
Exactly.
We did it.
It's 2 months in a row now. So it's...
oh, hell yeah.
And it's... But, short of an IPO, all of the ups, all the downs. And it's a wild trip. It really is so much... your producer Jake and I, we chatted about surfing a bunch, and it really is just so much like here, SoCal. You get to surf very consistent waves year round. You can go out and catch waves, and it is very, very much like surfing. People will compare it to it, and then it feels. I think it was Alexis Ohanian talking about surfing and business. And I was like, man, I wish there was a better metaphor, but I've never found one. Because of those ups, downs, the sport that you get so inspired by, that you also know, especially if you're pushing yourself,
kicks your butt,
kicks your total ass. It kicks your ass, and every wave that could be the wave of the month for you, if you're taking it, also could jack you up pretty badly. But I will say this right off the bat. I think Warren Buffett said, great businesses are like buses. There's another good one every hour. And I think about this with missing waves.
Yeah.
And maybe younger me would have thought like, no, there's only one wave, or Airbnb opportunity, or this theme is growing in tech and I've got to build in that theme. And the advice that I would offer to anybody that can get caught up in that feeling is it's more like waves. You miss a great wave, there's another one coming.
Another one coming. Yeah.
And they're coming like buses at the bus stop. There's another good one every hour. And I think doing things out of fear of missing out, is one of the worst base motivations to do anything.
Completely agree. There's nothing. I had a friend who was telling me that the only way to be truly present is to have complete trust. And I thought about that for a while. And I think there's a confidence as a founder you have to have that when that wave misses, it's fine. You'll figure it out. You'll find the next one. And so I think, and this kind of weaves back to it where being in these roles can be stressful. Can feel like everything's on your shoulders. Maybe you feel like it's only you who has to catch that wave. There's no one else who can do it.
Totally.
And you've been through a ton of these things, the ups, the downs, the acquisitions. What were some of the things you noticed as you started, as it related to how you performed as that executive, as a CEO, what skills you were doing, and then how it changed over time, and how did you make sure you didn't feel lonely? I want to try to get to this.
The thing that I struggled with, I didn't struggle with the loneliness aspect of things. I missed weddings and nephews and nieces, birthdays and births, and missed really important. Missed my grandfather's funeral.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
When I was living in Cape Town, South Africa, building up my first startup, and it was like 30 hours of flying back and forth, and was so myopically just like, no, got to build a startup.
Yeah.
Made every savvy justification in my mind
that
no, I'm gonna stay focused, but I certainly missed all those things and had this obsessive focus, but I never felt lonely. The thing that would get in that area code for me that I struggled with was because I just felt like I had my best friend with me when I was in flow with work. I still do. If I'm making music, I feel like I'm the most satisfied human on the planet. If I'm building and designing a brand universe around something like Magic Mind, there is nothing you could offer me that I'd want to add to it. I just feel completely content. But the issue that I would run into where I would feel emotionally isolated is I really struggled to ask for help.
Yeah.
And I think for myself, many young founders, the first time, you see this when young founders are pitching you with 7 minutes into the conversation, when they're so fearful of not having an answer to a topic or being perceived like they don't have the answer. And I really struggled, I think as a youngest of 5, I'm sure it was in the water of do not present more problems. Just solve it on yourself.
Interesting. Figure it out.
And then you'd get rewarded for that.
Right.
You'd get told you're, wow, so responsible, resourceful.
Right. One less hassle.
And you saw you did it on your own. Wow. And then certainly you get that as a first-time founder. The more you solve these problems, the more you get the feedback, hey, I'm built to do this. And there's 2 startup books that I love. The only 2 business books that I ever recommend. Great by Choice by Jim Collins, the sage when it comes to running a great business and culture. He's got a handful of bestsellers, but Great by Choice is my favorite. Synopsis there you can read into in the title is being great is a series of choices. It's not luck. And it is stacking these choices on each other day after day after day. And so you can talk about that if you want, but if you pursue something for 20, and it's your wiring, you're wired for it.
Yeah.
And it's 20 years in, you won't be surprised at all that you're successful at it. Like it's inevitable.
Away. Yeah.
It's inevitable. It's great by choice. Part of it is you got to have a wiring for it. And then 2, just pursue for 20 years. Whether it's, I don't know, becoming an actor, becoming a great teacher, becoming a great founder,
Yeah.
it is inevitable. Again,
I'm going to read that. It kind of reminds me of Atomic Habits a teeny bit.
I haven't read Atomic Habits, but
the idea of compounding improvements.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a total stacking of these decisions, kind of consistency over intensity.
I like that.
And then my second favorite business book that I recommend, the only two that I recommend, the other one is What Got You Here Won't Get You There.
Yes.
And so the synopsis there is what gives you some validation in leading a 7-person company to maybe a Series A or getting 10 million in funding, and you got a graph that's going up and to the right. The strengths that you have that make you great at that are the weaknesses that will limit you from leading a 70-person company in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And takes your nodding your head. What goes through your mind?
People don't talk about this enough. I think this is the thing. Well, so we were chatting about earlier how like there's this kind of obsession, I think, especially in Silicon Valley, of this like young founders, first time founder energy, and it's like the naivete is what fuels them. And I think the interesting thing that no one says is, and look, this is also in vogue. Speaking of Brian Chesky with his whole founder mode thing, right? It's like there are ways you operate a small team where you have, generally speaking, smaller scope, broad generalists. There's a lot of ways you can, shortcut things like communication because they're all in the same room, whatever, that just don't scale in the same way. And you kind of have to figure out how to scale yourself accordingly, because otherwise, not only is it going to be significantly harder for you, but you're going to do a disjustice to everyone else who's on the ride with you because they're not going to be able to operate the way that they need to.
The founder mode's interesting because it's my desk was shoulder to shoulder with Chesky for 2 years, and he was a mentor. Yeah, before that.
That's amazing.
And I was essentially the entrepreneur in residence at Airbnb for 2 years, building out new ideas. And it was beautiful to build out new business lines. More beautiful to see how he works.
Yeah.
And work with him on these things. And I'll say that there's this old spiritual adage: we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. Founder mode, people hear whatever they want to hear from that. And I can tell you, working.
That's so true.
And so they're like, this gives me permission. Same with Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I can be an asshole. I need to be blunt, direct. I can piss people off. And then his chief of staff for 22 years, James Higa, who's a good friend and advisor and investor in Magic Mind, speaks to the team on kind of regular basis. And his account of working with Steve for 22 years across multiple companies, he's like, dude, no, the public perception is so different than working with him.
Really?
Things like his sense of humor, his likability, his trust, saying just run with it.
Wow.
So
you
different. Never hear that.
Yeah.
So different than the stories of you'd think he's in your shorts about every pixel. And same thing with Chesky.
Yeah.
Where he would just be like, I trust you, run with it.
Wow.
And I'd want more feedback.
Wow.
So it's the founder mode thing, I think it is so easy to misinterpret it. And it's the great there's another great spiritual adage of the right tool used in the wrong way becomes the wrong tool. Shovel, phenomenal tool.
Right.
Use it as a pencil.
Right.
It's the wrong tool. And it's going to be rough. You're going to have a tough time.
Yeah.
And using founder mode, which I think some people use a shorthand of like unilateral leadership and decision making.
Yeah.
And overriding decisions.
Micromanaging. Yeah.
I think that's a misinterpretation of a founder being into the details to have the context to help foster the right decision. Not make the right decision.
Yeah.
But foster the right decision.
You know what's so interesting about this, James, is you said something that I think is so powerful. I want to pause for a second to recognize that it is, in fact, the whole point of this podcast, which is people see in a message what they want to see.
We don't see the world as it is. We see it as we are. Right?
Totally. And the dichotomy between the public persona of a leader, like a Steve Jobs, like a Brian Chesky, there becomes this kind of like public narrative around who they are and what they are. And the reality is almost invariably that it's not that, especially when the things are the kind of asshole, be blunt, be a jerk, be in someone's shorts, as you said. It turns out that's actually not how they got there in the first place, because it's really hard to get people to want to work with you who are world class. Like, you would have never sold Tilt to Airbnb if Brian were like that.
Right.
You would have done it.
Yeah.
Just full stop.
No, and they wouldn't have done. They basically bought us because they liked us. I say this often. We had a great team. We had great leadership. We had a lot of competencies, but we were very likable, and we hired people that are very likable. And this is Paul Graham has this great a blog post on this where he just talks about, like, you have to be likable. This idea that you're unlikable asshole. Yeah, that's a cop out. If you're just wired for, I don't know, poor communication skills, you maybe are more of a technical mind, but you're going to brute force being a CEO. And there's a company that I helped get off the ground called Apt. It's like 1 10-minute quiz, all major personality results back. It should sponsor your podcast for sure, because this is so helpful. It's basically AI-powered personality test, one quiz to rule them all. You get all the results back. And
like Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, like it's all in one place.
In 10 minutes instead of 45 minutes for Myers-Briggs. And then the next day someone's like, you need to take the big 5.
Yeah.
And so you get all of them back. And then you can also ask 10 million questions because it's powered by AI, so you can ask it a bunch of questions about the insights. But one of the things that is so clear in leadership is great communication. That overlaps with great leadership, obviously, because you got to lead. Right. And to lead is communication, whether it's with your body, whether it's with your action, or whether it's with your words. Like, that is communication. Yes. And the root of the word communication, together. Yes. Commune. Yes. And the art of getting people together. If you're not wired for that, take a 10-minute personality test to see what you're wired for. Yeah. And brute forcing, I'm going to be the CEO and I'm not great at communication, but assholes have been great leaders. There's a lot of this internal misinterpretation that you see people make. And if you aren't wired for great communication and you want to be a leader, get friggin' good at communication.
You got some work to do.
You got some work to do. And you could try it the alternative way, but my experience has been, and Paul Graham in his blog post talked about the Collison brothers. Very likable. They are very likable. Yeah. Founders of Stripe. Yeah. Founders of Airbnb. Very
super likable. Oh, yeah.
So that loneliness question you asked before. So I would isolate emotionally when I couldn't ask for help. And what made me effective to get to a Series A or the top of our batch of Y Combinator was I just had answers or would find the answers and refuse to be just in limbo of not knowing what to do.
Which is a very hard mental state to occupy.
It's very hard, especially.
It's actually, I think, the worst for humans. Like, I think I don't have the study, obviously, but humans will claim to have more pain not knowing whether or not it's a good or bad result than the pain of just knowing that it was a bad result. Yeah. So not knowing that it's bad for sure is worse than.
That's so. I find it the case in my own world where I'll choose the familiar pain over an unfamiliar solution to that pain. Yeah. And you just kind of sit with it. And this was something that. And great founders, and I saw this with Brian, where I was asking him, what do you think about this this brand design for these music experiences we're building out? Airbnb concerts and like castles and studios and on the beach. And he was like, I don't know. I'm like, well, you're the branding genius. Airbnb is a super brand. Like, it's one of the top loved brands in the world. No question. And he goes, I don't know about that. Dude, I'm the one that designed a logo that people thought was genitalia. Yeah. And I was like, so Healey, I was actually really blown away by this. Yeah. Because instead of a moment where he could have easily
pounded his
seized,
chest
a well-deserved, validated, moment of kind of like heroism of building this super brand, he just went straight to whatever failure he could point to and kind of identified with that. He was like, no, we should ask the marketing team. And again, this is a hallmark. This is an example of why like founder mode can be
misinterpreted.
He's not like, I got all the answers.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I remember thinking, that's not how I would have led.
Interesting.
I would have not have opened the gates for other input. I would have taken this, like, I don't know, this mantle and been like, yeah, I am pretty good at this. Let me tell you what we should do. He is such a phenomenal leader to artistically weave within these roles of extreme competency, but then also getting people's input. And again, that's so counter to what someone could interpret from founder mode. Yeah. Or you read or hear Elon Musk talk about hardcore. You better use the right tool in the right way, because if you don't really know the nuance, the best people are like going to be quiet quitting or looking for the next
For sure,
gig.
they're out of there. Yeah, totally.
But so he would be like, let's go get some help from the marketing team.
Amazing.
Or from specific James Good over in the marketing team. And I was not that evolved of a leader to where I was like, well, this is a chance where I can show that
I'm the leader.
Yeah.
I think, it's such an interesting, there's this metamorphosis that happens, but I think the through line here is when you start, one of the things that makes you investable and everyone love you and want to follow you is because you kind of know all the answers. But it turns out the opposite is true, which is when you become a much bigger company, bigger organization, the only way you're successful is now the inverse. You do what Brian did. And by the way, it's a very likable thing to do. He's so funny, like that makes him likable. But also you say, I don't know. Let's figure it out together. Mm-hmm. You mentioned, this is going back to one thing you said too, James. You were talking about getting a sense of communication and how, whether or not basically it makes sense for you to be a leader. No, it wasn't what you said, actually. You basically said you should get a sense of your communication skills as a leader, because that's such a critical part of being a leader, is communicating. That's like the thing. And I have this thing I talk about with my friends I call pilot face. So the context is I'm a private pilot. I fly little planes. And I was with two friends, and we were flying up to do a little fly over Tahoe. And people if you're a pilot, if your engine goes out and you're over flat land, like, you'll figure it out. You'll land on the farm on the ground. If you're over water, it's going to suck. Your plane will probably flip, but like, you'll figure it out. You can get out of there. If you're flying over mountains and your engine goes out, you're just going to die. Like, invariably, you're done. So we're over mountains. I start smelling fuel, and I look down and my fuel gauges are going,
oh no.
And I was like, oh my gosh, we're over mountains. This is the Sierras. And I'm with two friends who trust me, and one of them was like this kind of Coinbase-y, like tech bro guy. He's like, it's probably fine, man. Like, we can just keep going. I was like, no, I'm the pilot leader. I'm going to make the call. We're going to find an airport close by. We're going to touch down to be safe. Closest one's 38 nautical miles away. I do the math, and I realize I got to climb, because if I run out of fuel, I can't make it. So I start climbing, and it gets to the point where I isolate them. So the passengers can't hear what I'm saying to the tower. And I say, pan, pan, pan to the tower, which is like Mayday, basically. Fuel emergency. I'm coming in. This is the runway. I need it to be cleared. But I knew the whole time I was talking to the tower, and the whole time that I was talking to them, I was saying things, but that wasn't the most important form of communication they were looking at. They were looking at my face. And they wanted to know, is Healey panicked right now or not? And I was even talking to Jake before this about, he had this exec coach who kind of came into a few of his meetings and pulled him aside and said, hey, Jake, during these meetings, you're doing this, you're doing this. Do you think that form of communication is serving you as a leader and serving your team? And Jake was like, of course not. And so there's something to be said about like the holistic form of communication required. It's not just words. It's not just visuals. It is also like your body language and how you present that to people. And I found, at least, I'm curious what you found, is the way to get out of your own head. Because obviously when you're doing these things, because you're stressed, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. The way you get out of that is you have to think about the people in the room and what you need to do to allow them to be successful. And that's what you owe to them. It's kind of like how you communicate, how you hold your face. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. I wanted to bring it up.
I think certainly I think it's around 95% of the communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
It's 90%
totally
is nonverbal.
Totally.
So it is certainly the body, the intonation, even just I think much more, not even just much more importantly, the mentality. And I think there's these moments where I spend 90 minutes every morning in stillness.
90 minutes.
90 minutes.
That's incredible.
And it's talk about the satisfaction, like you couldn't add anything to it. I'm obviously in solitude. It's wake up at 4:30 and there's no one up.
Yeah.
It's my favorite part of the day.
Wow.
And it's in isolation, but it's what I crave,
Can I ask about that for a second?
Sure.
Is it a meditation? Is it a workshop with affirmation? Is it focusing? Is it all of it?
Yeah, I study this Indian philosophy, Advaita Vedanta, which is non-dual. Vedanta comes from the Vedas, the four oldest textbooks, philosophical textbooks in the world. And Vedanta just means end of the Vedas, where the Upanishads sit. That's the philosophical texts of the East. That's the Vedas are the source of nearly all Eastern philosophy. And I'd say nearly all philosophy. Because we started to discover about 200 years ago in the West. And then you see this rapid shift in our philosophical views. And you see, especially with German idealism, it's Schopenhauer, Kant, Hegel. They're like hand in glove with the Upanishads. Carl Jung studied Vedanta each day. You got like people like Joseph Campbell, Hero with 1,000 Faces. He was the secretary of the Vedanta Society of New York, and Aldous Huxley, perennial philosophy. So it's everywhere, whether people know that term or not. And so after a few years of being like all of these titans, Emerson, Thoreau, they all studied these texts, the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita every morning.
Right.
I want to see what they are. That was 10 years ago, and now
that was just 10 years ago.
Yeah. Now I'm like just a decade in, still riding that wave every morning before the sun comes up. So it's reading one of those texts or listening to a lecture on those texts.
So you're steeping in the wisdom of them.
Right.
Wow.
Importantly, before the sun comes up. I think people can read, they could read Marcus Aurelius, St. Augustine, the Talmud, they could read the Quran, but do it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the sun rises, before the world starts to pull us out of ourselves.
Yeah, that's right.
You start to think about, no, I need to get things done. So that stillness before the sun rises which is so insane for me. Even when I say it out loud now, I can't believe it because I was such a night owl. I would stay up until 4 a.m.
Until 4 a.m. And now you're...
Even with companies in my 20s, I was like 28, staying up till 4 a.m. to do what I thought was my best work. And now I'm like, oh, I craved those 4 a.m. That 4 a.m.
Same time slot, yeah.
But just from a different side of the spectrum. But the stillness allows for this wave selection, to choose the right waves. And it's the preparation for that moment when you're calling in Mayday.
Yeah.
It's the preparation for, like, do you want to practice free throws right before Game 7 of the NBA Finals?
Right. No, you practice your whole life.
For 20 years before.
Yeah, that's right.
And every founder, every human is going to get a moment or a phone call or an email at 4 p.m. on a Tuesday where it's Game 7 of the Finals and 12 seconds left and they're on the free throw line. Emotionally, logistically, in your case, logistically and emotionally to land a plane. Mm-hmm. You need to be preparing for that 20 years before.
Totally.
And it's not just a founder thing. It is inevitable. You will have these moments where you have a choice, and that choice is going to determine a before and after in your entire life.
Yes.
But that pilot phase brings up this concept of there is the moment in that meeting or that scenario in life where you have to manage your communication, your leadership. But I immediately think about prepare for that a decade in advance, because that's how important that moment you just talked about. That's 1,000
years
times,
of training,
and years of training 1,000 times more important than free throws in a basketball game.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. You know, this reminds me of my wife and I went to. Do you know Esalen up in Big Sur?
Of course, yeah.
Massive fan. I had a feeling maybe you would be too. And we went to this like couples retreat over the weekend, and these two, it was a married couple, and they gave me some of the best advice I'd ever gotten about anything, let alone about a couple. They said most people are kind of like at this like okay state, and then something bad happens and it drops them down, and they spend a huge amount of energy to get it just back up to okay. If you're at a good state right now, what's stopping you from putting a huge amount of energy to getting up to great and staying at great? So if something bad happens, you just drop down to good. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I have taken that really seriously. Like, we are focusing on that all the time and really making sure that even when things feel good, you're trying to deepen that. But I think it's true of like your own performance.
Mental health, for sure.
And that's what I was going to say. So it reminded me of a study I'm going to try to weave in, which was, there was this UCSF study, it was by Michael Freeman in 2015, and it surveyed 242 entrepreneurs. And they found that, interestingly, 49%, so almost half, reported a lifetime of some mental health condition, compared to the general population, which is 32%. So it was ADHD, or it was anxiety, or it was, a bunch of these things.
I dealt with depression for over a year at the tail end of Tilt.
I bet.
Where, like I said, they bought us because they liked us. Like, it's they say companies are not sold, they're bought. And I put on my selling shoes and I made sure that we could get sold after 6 years and struggling to find real product market fit.
Yeah.
And it was and certainly an exercise in exactly what you're talking about, where I was not investing in my mental health. Yeah. And I was just skating by, being like, I'm going to do all that stuff later. And then I got to the point where I would have PTSD of just opening my phone to see what emails are coming in, because it was such bad news.
Yes, I've been there.
Every probably 36 hours, something existential, bad news. And it took me a year, maybe a year and a half, to get over this real visceral response of opening my email client on my phone. Like, where I was like, what news that I cannot handle is going to hit my world right now. Employees probably had no clue that it was this bad. The 12 months leading up to what we're trying to fundraise to save the company, trying to do basically do the most kind of like Herculean work with the measliest version of myself, just totally worn down. But my most read blog post I've written is called Mental Wealth, and it's on this topic of I think it got to the top of Hacker News for, I think it was like 12 hours, the top of Hacker News, because it must have struck a nerve
to a lot of founders. Yeah.
And it's around this concept of we talk about mental health like we talked about physical health 50 years ago. Now when you talk about physical health, you're talking about optimizing, investing in your physical health.
Right.
If I mention physical health, not everybody instinctively thinks something's wrong.
Something's wrong with you, right? Yeah.
But when we talk about mental health,
that's right.
Instinctively, we all think something's wrong. And we need to reorient.
Especially from Texas or Nebraska.
What's that?
Especially if you're in Texas or Nebraska.
Oh, dude, mental health. Those are two words that my friends from Dallas, it never comes up
That's right.
in conversation. And the reorientation that I think we need to make as a culture is around mental wealth.
Yeah.
Where you're investing in it.
That's great.
Like you would invest in your career or a skill or your finances, where you don't think about your 401k when you need to draw on it in 40 years. You don't think about your finances when you need to just make a huge payment. You're obviously investing in building those things up, and it should be the same, or at least you ought to be. And it should be the same thing when it comes to our mental health. And the 5 areas that in Magic Mind is built around this, that we tell everybody in all of our education, even though it is a 2-ounce shot that will get you dialed in for 7 to 8 hours. You're like in flow state. It's It's very strong, especially Magic Mind Max is in that bag.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
That we just launched, which is quite literally, it's the first time release energy shot. So it's time release over 8 hours.
Wow.
And has all of these compounds that get you more than just energetically dialed in, but focus, flow, decrease stress. But the thing that I always say is Magic Mind or any exogenous compounds should be fifth on your list of a personal internal audit. Sleep, diet, exercise, stress management, then a cup of coffee, then an energy drink, then a Magic Mind.
Yes.
That's last on the list. Sleep, diet, exercise, stress management, then your favorite morning routine, coffee or a matcha latte. The reason that's last is, and it's in this order, you could be the world's most enlightened, greatest meditator, and maybe that individual could handle 2 hours of sleep every night. But everyone's short of that. We'll say that.
Yeah.
2 hours sleep. It doesn't matter what breathwork practice.
That's right.
It doesn't matter what regimen you have. 3 hours on your body in the gym. Doesn't matter how healthy you eat. Everything will crumble. Same thing for the next level. So prioritize sleep, then diet. Dude, you could get great sleep. You could have a great breathwork practice. You could have the world's greatest nootropic stack.
Right.
And you add in really shitty food.
Yeah, nonstop fast food.
Nonstop, sugar spikes. You're going to destroy your ability to your mental health. You're going to destroy your ability to get into flow. So those 5 things are things that we should all, and I did it this morning. I did an audit on why do I feel off right now? Oh, I haven't really blown out my lungs with a good run and just oxygenated my entire body, all 635 muscles, because I haven't gone for really good, and it takes 15 minutes to do this. They've even shown sprinting is better for mental health than even long distance running or jogging. Huh. So go for 5 sprints of 100 yards each. It takes you quite literally 6 minutes.
Yeah.
It's so short.
Yeah.
And also if you like biking or a Peloton sesh or Soul Cycle, cycling is even better for mental health than running.
Really?
Sprinting. Yeah.
No way.
And I think it's
same thing. Like you sprint it, like go for a sprint, hard ride.
20 minutes.
Wow.
And whenever I feel out of sorts, I run through the audit. No, I'm sleeping well. Sleep, diet, exercise, stress management, and then exogenous compounds. Sleeping fine, getting great sleep. Diet, no, nothing's off on the diet. Exercise. Yeah, I have not done some weight training, but I have not really emptied my lungs.
Yeah.
I feel so, and then within 30 minutes, I'm like, oh yeah, that was it. But to your point, investing in these things way before you need to call upon reserves. Is critical. Same thing for the investment of our character.
That's
and
right.
What we're saying.
That's exactly right.
Before the day starts.
Totally. My grandfather had this personal policy that if your gas was ever at half tank, just fill it up all the way. And it's kind of an interesting metaphor for all of this. Like, invest in it all now so your tank is always full. So something doesn't take it all the way out of you. Because if you're caught flat-footed and you're already on your last limb, it's going to be really hard to recover.
Well, you talk about this in the questions that you were answering in one of your episodes that I was listening to, where it's how do you recover from being an asshole in a moment.
Yeah, which I have done.
Yeah, so I have as well. Yeah. And it's you had great sage advice of own it. Don't just be like, in 2 weeks everybody will forget. Own it. And if there was a loss of trust, go hardcore into regaining it by saying, hey, there's a loss of trust. Let me bring you into the fold of everything that is happening. And I love how you add in this phrasing of I want y'all's help in solving this.
Yes,
humans love
people want to help.
An opportunity to help. Yeah. We are wired as social beings to help. Like it's in our wiring. It whether we know it or not. It especially if it's within your domain of expertise, which obviously if hired these people around you, then they're in the jobs that they're wired for. So you give them an opportunity to flex that muscle to help. It is, and this ties to that loneliness. Not only does it distribute the burden that's on your shoulders that younger me would just kind of hold up and
take
be like,
on and crush you. Yeah.
You distribute the weight.
Yes,
But
totally.
then also, which, distribute the weight, and you're handling it's math, it's simple arithmetic. You're handling a fraction.
Yeah, that's right.
Of what you're handling before. But two, people love to solve problems. So you bring them into the fold, and that's a great way to overcome that loss of trust of being an asshole. But if you can avoid it, and everybody that's married or in relationships knows that, like, you say the wrong thing.
Yeah. And especially to an Italian wife.
Yes, yeah. To any spouse. And that 1 minute of indulgence, you might spend hours, 2 weeks.
It's not worth it.
Recovering from.
It's not worth it.
And I think that's the antidote there is my favorite definition of wisdom is to see the end in the beginning.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And the decisions you're making right now, can you see beyond 10 minutes, an hour, a week,
Absolutely.
a year down the road? And it's what a way to avoid 2 weeks of extra work.
For sure.
To see the end in the beginning and avoid saying that thing that's might be rattling in your head, but saying, you know what, I got enough on the plate. I don't want to spend 2 weeks by saying
backpedaling
or discover or kind of reestablishing that trust.
I have these two negotiation coaches who gave me this really nice one-liner. They said, if you're going to say something and the whole reason for saying it is just because it's going to make you feel good, reconsider it, especially in a negotiation.
That is a great temperature check.
Yeah.
The motivation behind something.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Another thing, and I joke about this with my company, Boom Pop, which is an AI kind of like we get people together, is it turns out humans were not the strongest. We're not the fastest. The reason we became the dominant species on this planet is because we work together.
Coordination, yeah.
We help. And I was even thinking about because you've been admirably very courageous about talking about when you felt anxiety and stress. And I was curious, in those moments when you did it, I bet it was, I don't know, but if I were writing that, I'd feel nervous to even hit the enter button and have that go out. What was the response like? Did people...
One of the greatest things that ever happened to me, Healey, was when we did not achieve anything close to the ambitions we had for my last company. What was so great was it got written about of selling in a fire sale, failing to build this massive outcome type of business. And I'm so thankful that it got just publicly derided, and me personally. Luckily for nothing too bad, as I think it was one article said, I threw a football in the office right over someone's head, and I was like, man, if that's the worst thing that people, that's actually great. And this is, they probably spent 2 months trying to find all, because
the worst thing you did.
Yeah, and then back then, this was 2016, 2017, and just the press was like, any blood in any tech company, they loved it.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, okay, that's great. But also, it was this on the kind of headline number of failed to build a big business. And we did sell in a fire sale. We barely, the skin of our teeth, were able to sell it for a small amount, but find homes for our team members and get some return for our investors.
Yeah.
But the great thing is that I couldn't hide. So many people, quote unquote, sell their businesses, and they polish out that narrative.
That's right. It's
make
a quote
it
unquote.
Seem like it's we sold, and I totally was why I would have totally done that, and I couldn't.
Wow.
I would have. We sold our company to Airbnb, and I could not do that. That option was taken off the table, which was so great because it was just there was no other choice but to own that we failed.
God, that's incredible.
And I'm so thankful, because my lower motivations would have stopped me from hitting the truth head on, and I would have dressed up the narrative into sold my first company to Airbnb. And from that story, or the, I don't know, 3 or 4 articles of calling out how poorly we had done. We had 2 years in.
How did that get out, by the way?
What's that?
How did that get out? How did the story get out?
Well, we were pretty high profile. 2 years in.
Yes, you were.
2 years in, we
Everyone knew Tilt.
We were had a $400 million valuation.
Yep.
And then 4 years later, we were selling for a fraction of that, and it was, some articles called it a steal for Airbnb. Someone just called it just ineptitude from me as a founder, and it was all of these things.
Wow.
of they were right. And what was so great about it, just to underscore it, was I could not dress it up and polish the narrative. And what was logistically amazing was so many founders reached out.
Really?
They're like, I think I'm in that position.
Wow.
Hey, could you chat with my friend? I think that they're in a similar position of XYZ company.
Wow.
So I was chatting to 200 founders over 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
About that experience.
It's really common.
It was so common. I mean, I think it's every.
Now people wish it were common because there's no one buying.
No one buying.
Yeah.
To my deathbed, I'll just feel so fortunate, from my bedroom to selling to Airbnb and having the experience that we had. Most importantly, a PhD in life and business and myself, what I was good at, what I was not good at over those 6 years. It was such a net benefit.
I just want to take a second to compliment you, James, because it is so rare that someone celebrate a failure like this. And it is, I kind of think of it as almost like deeply Buddhist in the way that I know Buddhism, and that like, it is what it is, and you see it for that. And you see it in the path that you're on.
My practice, in a word, is non-attachment. And that means non-attachment to, and it's a practice, so I'm no master at it. But it's certainly a cultivation each day of detaching from some identity that I'm trying to create, or some narrative that I'm trying to build out for a company that I'm building.
Yep.
And one of the greatest strengths for that you get from that cultivation is with failure after failure after failure. My first 3 startups in my 20s, failures. That it was like me paddling, trying to make a wave. But when there is not this attachment to needing something to be something, so that it gives me something.
Interesting.
You get to see things for what they are, see reality for what it is. And with something like Magic Mind, it was like, for the first 2 years, I was like, I don't need this to be something. I want to be shown that there's no wave here. But like surfing and wave selection, I was like, I think there's a wave here. I'm totally fine. I definitely want to be shown that if there isn't one, I want to get off it as quickly as possible. And find wherever there is a wave, but out of service for people. I want there to be this wave that picks up this idea and carries it. Because imagine, a surfer, like when you catch a 8-foot, 9-foot wave, it's like 3 paddles, boom, and then the wave is doing all the work for you.
Yeah.
My 20s, it was like, I'm going to paddle as hard as I can to make a wave happen.
Yeah.
And the universe is not carrying you along. And the reason this ties to what you're saying of just you can talk about anything openly is because you're constantly just in awe of a wave picking you up, or in search of a wave. The more open, the more clear you're viewing things, the more you can be like, oh, that isn't a wave. I started a company right before Magic Mind, and for 7 months I was like, no, this isn't a wave.
Wow.
Or at least for 7 months I was wondering. And then after month 6 and month 7, I was like, nope, no wave here. Shutting this one down.
That's good.
And that allowed for me to find Magic Mind, which I continually, every day, I'm like, I don't know how this happened. I'm just gliding on this board, my co-founder and I, but we both surf and we just talk about it, that we're just on a wave and we're trying to get out of the way. And it allows for really open conversations because you see it pay off in momentum.
I love
over
that.
and over and over.
I love that. It's a distinguishing between needing something to work or just wanting it to work. Yeah. And there's some freedom in knowing that it's a want, not a need. So here's maybe like it's a pretty abstract question, but we're talking about all of these incredible aspects of the journey you've been on, James. I mean, from from the 3 failed startups to Tilt to selling to the ups to the downs to public failure to, the need of this communication you have to have as a leader to the mental health burdens you have to all these. There's so much here. And I think a lot of founders feel the constant tugging on their energy that we're talking about. There's so much to it. And there's these moments where they look in the mirror and they go, like, what is the point of all this? Like, why am I doing this? And I love that you're spending this. I mean, I feel very inspired, man. I'm going to do this. You're spending this sacred time in the morning, steeping yourself in perhaps a reminder that all things are spiritual. So, what is the point of all this?
Evolution, growth. I mean, and what's so beautiful is failure, success, shutting down, selling. Those are completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant to your growth. If you set a personal record and bench tomorrow or not, could you still grow, build strength?
Right.
If it has, and I think about this quite often, that if it has to do with numbers, it has nothing to do with God. So when I think about the work for Magic Mind or advising and investing in other founders, I've never once thought about the numbers. I almost did the math on like a missed out investment that we touched on before.
Yeah.
And thought about this principle that I just discovered within of if it has to do with numbers, it has nothing to do with God.
Wow. And
work without attachment is worship. Work is meant to be worship. And and you don't have to worship God, it's Advaita Vedanta, non-dual end of the Vedas. It is very much tied to Christ's message of the kingdom of heaven is within you. It is not a philosophy about an external God at all. It's the philosophy that is all about it's not out there. Nothing we're seeking is out there. And when you start to, I think, scratch at the surface of what generates energy within Vedanta, there's a principle. The definition of right action is that which generates energy. Definition of wrong action is that which dissipates energy. So it's not a list of rules.
Yeah.
There are no thou shalt, thou shalt nots. It's just what generates energy for you and what dissipates energy for you. What generates energy for me is service. And I think, like we talked about before, helping people, it's wired in nearly all of us.
No question.
So if you get energized by giving someone a compliment, if you get energized by pointing out someone's lights are still on in their car, you feel a little bit of energy from that. If you get energy from helping someone at work that has a really big problem, dude, scratch at that itch. See how far it'll go. And it might be infinite. It might be infinite energy you get from serving those around you versus the dissipation, the burnout from serving yourself and viewing other people as instruments to serve yourself. So all of this comes back to what is the point? Discover what generates energy within you.
I love that.
And action is one hell of a way to do that.
That's right. Yeah.
Because you might learn, whoa, I'm a spiritual being that never thinks, talks, or wants to hear about this God thing. I just care about the humans to my left and right. You'd be far more evolved than most people on earth if you discovered that right action for you, what generated energy within you, was serving the people to your left and right.
I love that, man. That is beautiful. I have such a swirling of thoughts related to that, but you've said it so well. The only so you ever read Abraham Hicks or heard of Law of Attraction or like The Secret?
No, I haven't. I've heard of The Secret, the book of
it's
vision boards and stuff.
Yes, it's related to that. Yeah, so it's rooted in the dawn of the universe, dawn of the galaxy was about gravity, which is defined as like is attracted to like. And so you had all this matter that created planets, and this, these gases that created stars, and you go all the way down to our existence. The idea being that the way that we think, the way that we focus, the energy we have will attract a similar thing. And so there is this wonderful, as part of this teaching, someone said, is there such thing as good and evil? Which is a really tricky question. And this teacher said, no. There's only that is within harmony with you, gives you energy, and that is in disharmony with you, that takes away your energy. And there's something about the, as I'm building this podcast and I'm figuring it out and I'm learning so much, especially with amazing folks like you. And there's something about this through line that I continue to see over and over again, which is most people get energy from service and from helping and being focused on how they contribute. And there's even studies that show people are surprised, like these people who...
The saddest part is they don't even know
They don't know it. That's exactly where I was going.
They think it's
go
through, get this degree, then get this postgraduate degree, then get this entry job that opens more doors for you to get this promotion. And they have no idea, because they're being used by a system that's like, hey, we're going to tell all these analysts that if they work really hard for 2 years and they might... I mean, it's hilarious how humans can create these systems and we just follow them.
We don't question them. Yeah.
Versus ever asking ourselves, what gives me energy?
Yes, totally. Okay, last question. This has been so great, James. Thank you, man.
Thanks for having me.
Let's say it was, you've been in this practice for 10 years now. Let's say someone sat you down in your early 20s, before you started on this founder journey, before all the things that happened with Tilt and now with Magic Mind, which I'm so excited about, by the way. What do you wish someone would have told you then? A lesson that you learned later, you wish you'd heard earlier.
It's not out there. Those words. I almost get emotional thinking about it, because that is the illusion. The illusion that we are all hypnotized by. That it's out there. Success, the validation, the comfort with yourself, which is hilariously paradoxical to think the comfort with yourself is out there through something you do out there.
That's right.
The financial milestone, the spouse, the child. It's not out. What you are seeking, that comfort with yourself, the peace, prosperity, that is not out there.
It's beautiful, man.
It's a lecture I heard in an ashram in India during a youth retreat for like 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds. And I studied with this ashram. I was just there. I was like, oh, I'll go check out. How do they package this up for a 15-year-old? I bet it'll be kind of elementary. The first 3 minutes, the kind of COO of the ashram, Dr. Jal, he's also the physician for the ashram, he lays that down in the first 3 minutes of, if you take nothing away from this entire weekend, let it be this. It's not out there. And gave an hour lecture on that topic, and those 3 minutes for 15-year-olds, that was the most profound spiritual message I've ever heard.
It is for me at 41 too.
Thank you for hosting a podcast where you can talk about these things. These kinds of things. They don't get brought up. That you can't really talk about these on 99% of podcasts. So
I agree with that. I agree with that.
The work you're doing.
I appreciate that. So, okay. So if people want to talk to you more about this stuff, you're obviously pretty easy to find, but how do you prefer people find you?
Instagram is the easiest. James J. Beshara, or The Daily Vedantic is a podcast I started, 10-minute episodes on this philosophy of Vedanta. I also have another one, Yoga for Your Intellect. That's a conversational podcast on this philosophy. And then you can shoot me a DM on Instagram, and I reply to all of them.
Amazing, man. All right. Thanks, James.
Thanks so much, Healey.